Hi everyone, I'm Barbara Beck and I want to thank you for tuning in to Welcome Home. It's time to talk about Mother's Day and we've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to be honoring our moms and talking to some super moms who are married, we have single moms, and we have stepmoms. I know you're going to be blessed by our conversations and encouraged as you listen to others give us a glimpse into their lives. Women as moms, as you know, have so many roles. You might be a single mom out there today, you could have adopted children, maybe a house full of biological children, and perhaps you have an only child. You could be a stepmom, or maybe you're not a mom at all yet, but you yearn to be. No matter what your situation, we're going to be talking about motherhood here on Welcome Home, and hopefully our program today will inspire, encourage, and bless you. And you know what? Maybe even honor you because you deserve it as a mom. We have lots of guests and opinions on our special Mother's Day show, so stay tuned. But first, let's talk to our panel of current ladies who are super moms themselves. Welcome, moms.
Hello.
Thank you. So glad to have you here today. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you. What a blessing it is to be a mom, right?
Yes.
What are some of your observations about being moms? Was it what you thought it was going to be? Were there some surprises along the way? What's it like being a mom?
But somebody didn't tell me it was going to be exhausting. Where was that when I read that book?
It is.
You know, when I was a little girl, I couldn't wait to be a mom, and I think it's because I lost my mom at such a young age. I was 6 when my mom passed away, and so I think for me, I just wanted to recreate that home of what I never had, and I grew up to see what a mom looked like. I watched what's that show that was on TV about the Little House on the Prairie? Do you remember that?
Sure.
And you know, it's funny because I actually married a man that sort of reminds me of him.
Really?
Yeah, when you think about Sean. And so for me, I just couldn't wait to be a mom, just to create that atmosphere in the home where there was love and just excitement. They're my best friends, but it doesn't mean that it's not tough and that there's not days that you have to send everybody to the rooms and go, that's enough, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I clearly had a wonderful mom. I had a wonderful upbringing, and so super grateful
thank
for
you.
my childhood and my continued childhood, being a child of you. And
I do treat you like a child.
You do.
You're right.
And I feel like moms never stop being a mom.
And I want you to understand that because you will. You really will do that with your own children one day. Right now you think, oh, it's so annoying. You know, my mom continues to treat me like a little girl, but that's just what we do. And I'm sorry we do that.
Okay.
I do know you're grown up.
I appreciate you coming into my house while I'm cooking and turning my stove up and down. And I mean, without fail. You even did it yesterday.
I did it yesterday.
I had some chicken in the slow cooker, and she came in and she's like, oh, I turned that down because it was starting to scorch on the bottom. Thank you.
Can I just tell you that the other day, yesterday, yes, I did do that without asking. That might have been bad, but I did think it was going to scorch. The other day, she left something in the oven, and I turned off the oven for you because you were going to be gone like 2 hours. Did you know that? Do you remember that?
No.
And Chris was coming home, and I told Chris, I said, luckily for you, I turned off your oven.
appreciate that.
The chicken Parmesan.
Well, thank you.
Did you not know that you did that?
That's why it wasn't done.
Are you serious?
I don't know. It wasn't very good.
I know we're working it all out on the TV here.
See, but this is the deal about moms, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, we'll talk about some of your situations. We'll get away from us, Kristen, for a while.
Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your mother with us. Because she's not just your mom,
I know,
she's our mom.
Yeah, I know.
I sent Barbara a message earlier this week, and her response back to me was classic mom. She said, no, I want you there. And it's like, I sent her a message back, and I said, thank you, Mom.
You did, right.
But I agree, Barbara. I'm the mother of adult children as well. Have young people at home, but I have adult children. And it is hard, Kristen, to take that step back and say, they're adults, let them do their own thing, and not come in and adjust your temperature on your pot. It's very difficult. And it's something that, a lot of people struggle with, because how do you let go after you have taken care of them for so long? You guys remember, I almost died when Lil Alan left and went to college, remember?
Yeah. Oh, it's hard.
It was very, very difficult. So I can only, you guys have no idea what you're in for when they get
No, we
older.
don't. We're learning through you guys, though.
It's not easy, Barbara.
But they think they want that emptiness to happen. And
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
No,
No, my
heart is about to break. I only have a year and a half before Anna Kate leaves, and I can cry thinking about her leaving. And I will say lately, my Anna Kate's been going through something, and when your children are sad, I couldn't sleep. I mean, it is amazing, and I kept thinking about how the Lord loves us. Like, I can't, how much we love our children, and how much more our Father loves us. It really gave me and then I remember my mom saying, it's the worst when you're hurting. And I was thinking, you don't understand, Mom, but she did.
Yeah.
And so it's really been a real tender couple weeks,
that's sweet.
Watching your child be sad and realizing that only God can help her, sometimes. But just being there and loving on her is what I've
So
had
would
to
you
do.
say that's been your biggest challenge, being a mom, maybe those kinds of things when your children are hurting? Because to me, that would be maybe one of my biggest challenges.
I think that, and knowing when to really be a mom and when to try to be I've never wanted to be her friend necessarily, but yet she'll call me one of her best friends, and I think that's great. But I have to be the parent first. I think it's just balancing that, because and then the other thing is, I don't know about you guys, but as they get older, you feel like you can be more friends, and then you realize I still have to be a good example. Like the other day, she caught me doing something I really shouldn't have been doing, and she called me out on it, and I was like, yes, because we still always, we should be a good example always, but as your children get older, they can call you out like a friend can and say, whoa, you tell me I can't do that, and why are you doing that?
Boy, we're all sitting here going, wonder what it was.
I'm not telling you.
I cannot
That's
even
another
imagine.
show. That's another show.
We'll say
This is not
have one of those
confessions of the ladies here today.
So other challenges, what are some?
Well, we've talked about this before, but also Mother's Day can also be a tough time for
Yes.
people who have lost their moms. Did you have some other women come around you when you were growing up that were like surrogate moms for you?
I would say that I've had a lot of moms, and see, I want to choke up. I don't want to choke up today, but your mom has been that to me. It's like you said, when she sends little emails out, or she'll send me out private ones, like after we do something together, just saying, I just see Jesus in you, and you are such, just all those sweet things that you say that's just so mothering, that I think that's what a mother would be doing. And yeah, I think that there is times that I felt like I missed out on, and sometimes my sister, growing up, I pretended like she was my mom just because I didn't want to feel left out at times, because there's certain things that society makes you think, well, this is normal. And for a lot of us out there, we just didn't have that kind of norm. I know there's people out there right now who are going through that, and it's a struggle. But God promises to be a mother, a father, and He'll bring people in. And what I have found is, even in my loss, God has come in and given me things, and even in my weaknesses, He's shown me strengths that I had inside myself, or I've seen Him in a different way, that I think I have a different relationship with Him because of the struggle that I've been through. But boy, it makes me now just want to give my kids everything that I didn't have, and just to be there for them. Sometimes I feel like I sacrifice running, like you and I will talk, we're running 50 miles a day, just trying to make sure the kids are made feel special, and each one of them, you put their time and their love language in them. And then I lay down in bed and I'm like, I'm exhausted, but it's true.
Where's the balance between making your children feel loved and teaching them to honor you, and not to feel like they're the center of the universe? I know that was really one of my challenges, Leanne, because I adored my two daughters so much, and I really felt like I elevated them, maybe sometimes more than I should have, placing them before my husband, because there are times when you just have to do that. And so that, to me, how do you all do that and manage that and not make your children the center of your world?
I think when they're young, they are the center of your world.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's any getting around that. Because when they're young, you have to take care of them, and you have to put their needs sometimes ahead of your own and even your husband's.
That's true.
Because especially when they're infants, they can't take care of themselves. Right. So I think that's a season in our life, Barbara.
Okay.
And then I think you get to a point, because I know based on where we are right now, there are times when I will say to my boys, you figure out what you're eating for dinner. Dad and I are going out for dinner.
That's
Why?
good.
Because we're at a point now where I don't have to do everything for them.
Good.
And then the other side of that is, It's very difficult not to put your children on the pedestal.
Yes.
Because when you're looking at that newborn baby, that baby is the most special and the most precious thing in the world. I was like you. My mother passed away when I was very young. And so having a family and having children of my own was very important to me. And I poured my heart into making sure that I did my very best for those children, and to make sure that they knew that I loved them and that nothing was going to separate me from them. Even this morning, my husband and I had a conversation, and I had to say to him, I'm not going to be in the middle between my husband and my children. So there's certain conversations we won't even have because I don't want to be put in that position. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would add too, it's super important, I think, that you keep a date night with your husband, or we have a lot of friends and we do a lot of things with friends, and I'll say, you guys are on your own, or we have plans. I think that it's sometimes hard when moms or dads put their children ahead of everything, and then they go off to college. I've seen it, and then they're kind of at a loss. Their marriage is at a loss. I mean, I just think it's really important that you balance that. And so we'll have, maybe one night where the kids, all right, you guys get to call it, and we won't go out with our friends. But I just think it's good to have some balance there.
Well, and when my kids were really young, we were really restarting over in our lives, so finances just weren't there. I don't know if anybody else relates to that, but we had to either work with other couples to try to offset, or we would just try to make things that maybe we'd meet during the day and do a lunch while the kids were at school, or you have to get creative, because I do feel that even though I love our children and it's so great, but I know that they will be gone, and it's so important for my husband and I to keep that, and I think it's important for our children to see what a healthy marriage looks like, of two people sticking together, making it. And the only way you do that is to spend time together and feed each other that way.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chris and I try to have good conversation when he comes home that the kids can be a part of, but they also need to listen. But I was also thinking, too, when I get up early in the morning and have my quiet time, if the kids wake up, they know that's my time with the Lord. And they're welcome to come in and they're welcome to sit and read quietly with me. But I've really tried to guard that and protect that. And I think hopefully that's an example to them that relationship with Jesus, with the Lord, is more important. Yeah. I love them so much, but my relationship with God is more important, and that's going to be a priority. And I hope for them it becomes a priority in their life. But I think just leading by example, what everyone's saying, I think that's such a great.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Kristen. That's so good you brought it up. What role does faith play in your role as a mom? How are you modeling Jesus to them? And that's great for your example. What are some of the other tactics and strategies that you all are using to model Jesus?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
About the pedestal? Because I don't know if I've said this before, but I realize that I am a pedestal putter. That's what I call myself these days. And I have to work super hard, and it can be anything. It can be success and money and my children at some point, my husband at some point, and God will go at great lengths to pull them off the pedestal. So you need to grab them off the pedestal before he pushes them off the pedestal, because he's the only one that should be on there. But that's just an important thing, not to get your kids up there on that pedestal, because it's not good when God, I think, has to pull them off.
Yeah.
So, but I'll go back to your question though. Faith, I think your kids seeing you do quiet times every Friday morning when we have my prayer group at my house. I love it when my kids kind of are stirring and they know that we're praying for them. And these women have been doing it for years. And I think just even getting up, going to church, just the little things that we do, week to week, I think show them how important it is.
The other week I got hurt by some friends, and it was funny because we pulled all the kids together, and I was sort of, I was hurt. I was definitely hurt, and we talked about it as a family. And I said, guys, I don't want to take offense to this. And we talked about the Word and what the Word says about taking offense and how would Jesus want us. And I think it's sometimes living out our struggles in front of our children, not acting like everything's perfect, but going to the Word together and saying, let's seek this out. How would God want us to respond? Because it's real life. We're living real life as real moms, but trying to live in a real way that glorifies God.
Yeah. different for Deborah because your husband's a pastor and your kids are seeing Jesus all the time, all week long. Maybe there's a balance for you the other way.
But I agree with what you're saying. A lot of times, particularly for pastors' children, what you see is church. Yeah. And that is not necessarily faith.
That's right.
And so we bring home, or we start at home, what we teach and preach at church. And so having prayer with our children and having those transparent conversations where we're able to say, okay, if we're struggling in this area, then this is what the word says, and this is how we're going to apply it. So we don't do it in reverse. It's not preach it at church and then try to figure it out. We walk it out at home. Right. And so the messages that go forth at church really, in a lot of cases, have to do with what we are dealing with and what we've gone through in our personal lives. And so our kids know that the messages that are going forth, they're real.
Deborah, I would love to be a fly on the wall in your home. I think your home is so cool, and you were such a great mom, a super mom, and a grandmother as well.
Yes, Barbara, we are.
So we are grandmothers and proud of it and happy to be. But you know, you all are living it, and I love you ladies so much, and I thank you so much for your transparency and your ability to be the kinds of moms and role models that you are to our children. Viewers, you know that the Bible says to talk to your children when you're on the road, when you're lying down, when you're sitting up, when you're doing whatever you're doing. All along the way, we need to be talking to our children about Jesus. These ladies are modeling that. I know that so many of you are as well. We've got some more wonderful stories coming up for you with a stepmom, with another mom who's a single mom. We understand that there's a lot of pain out there, sometimes in being a mom, and we want to encourage you and inspire you today with our program. So stay with us, and we'll be right back with lots more for you.
To the stepmoms themselves, you know, if they're struggling, I think, you know, you have to have faith, and you can always still pray for your stepchildren. That's something anybody can do, whether or not your relationship is great. You know, unfortunately, I think sometimes God does have us wait a really long time to see the fruits of that. And I've seen that certainly in other friends' relationships where, you know, they're on their knees praying for that relationship, and it takes years and years and years. And there's no good answer to that other than just be strong and trust in the Lord, that in the Lord's timing.
Hi everyone, I'm Barbara Beck, and I want to thank you for watching Welcome Home and hopefully all of our programming here on Good Life 45. Our heart is to share Christ in compelling ways, and sometimes that's through great sermons and teachings by local and national partners. Sometimes it's through talk shows that feature life-changing stories. We also love to offer you musical shows, movies, even Saturday morning children's programs. We work very hard to listen to you, our viewers, and to hear what you're yearning for. We want to meet your needs. As we offer our best programming, we continue to change and monitor what serves you best. So know that we want to hear from you and are always striving to get better for you and for the kingdom. We need your help as part of our Hope team of donors and prayer warriors. Go to that address on the screen to send your best gift to us, or of course you can go online to goodlife45.org to give safely and securely online. And here's some more great news. We're making it easier to see Good Life 45's great Christian programs wherever you are. It's so easy and it's free. Just download our Good Life 45 app to watch us anytime, anywhere. Live stream all of our programming. Check out recent episodes of Welcome Home. Get the latest recipes from John Rivers. There's even a Bible reading plan and ways to support us as we bring you the best Christian programming in Central Florida. It's easy and safe to give on our app. Search Good Life 45 on your app provider. Download the free app, available for Apple, Android, Google, Windows phones, and Amazon devices. And you're just a click away from hope on Good Life 45, where hope happens. Thanks for all you do to be part of our Good Life 45 family, and God bless you. If you're a mom today, you know what an honor and a privilege and a joy it is to serve in that role. If you're not a mom, maybe you're somebody out there listening today who you want to be a mom, or your kids are out of the household, or maybe you're a dad or a granddad. Whoever you are, you're going to be able to glean something from this particular segment, because there are some certain challenges that have to be dealt with in being a step mom. And we have a wonderful guest with us here today, Barbie Boyd. She used to be my next door neighbor, and then they moved away, and I was so mad at her for going away, but we have gotten to be friends through the years regardless of that. So Barbie is here today to share her experiences as a mom and a stepmom. Welcome, Barbie Boyd.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Oh, I know. I love to have this friendship through the years. It's been a long, long time, because your girls, you tell us about your family. 3 biological daughters and then your stepson.
Yes, and we moved in next door to you when my husband, Steve, and I got married 11 years ago.
Was it 11 years?
11 years.
Wow.
And it just at the start of blending our family. So we purchased that house just for all of us to move into at this,
So how old were the daughters at that time?
At that time, they were 11, 9, and about 6.
Yeah.
So
and then Ross, the stepson,
he was 13. We got married, moved in together, and at the same time, we moved all 4 kids' schools, which, looking back on it, that was a little bit of a crazy thing to do. So they all changed school districts.
I'm sure that you had expectations as a brand new wife and a brand new stepmother. Were there some surprises in that first year, or was everything kind of like you thought it would be?
I think one surprise was I had changed my work schedule so that I could be home after school with the children in order to help make the transition. And I think I had some unrealistic expectations about what that would be like, being home with four elementary and middle school children after school. And
when you're used to working.
When you're used to working. And so it was a transition for me also, and to be home and overseeing homework and really wanting everything to be perfect and wonderful and everyone to get along perfectly and to have dinner on the table at a certain time and just to start to create those family moments. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Sure. Now Ross, at 13 years of age, it had to be super, super challenging for him coming into a household where he has a brand new mom, a stepmom. He still has his biological mom that he's very close to, and she's a wonderful person. But he's got these 3 little sisters, stepsisters too. So how did Ross navigate that first year?
Yeah, I'm so proud of him because I think he really did a good job of navigating a lot of changes in his life, because he went through his parents' divorce, his mom remarried, and he has a sister, with his mom and stepdad. And then I started dating his dad when he was 11, and here come these 3 sisters. So within the period of about several years, he went from being an only child to having 4 sisters. So and I think he's managed it remarkably well. I think he's a great big brother to all of them.
A lot of that has to do with you and Steve, your husband, because you guys have done a great job modeling your faith and your consistency as a loving couple and as a family who loves the Lord. Ross is in ministry now, for goodness sakes. Right?
I know. It's really wonderful to see, how the kids have all grown in their faith in different ways, and especially what are some things that you did, Barbie, as a family through the years that really helped you kind of bind together? As I mentioned, I think the family meal times really do make a big difference. I think we have a great church home that we've been to as a family, that we go to worship and we participate in different events and mission trips. We all went on a family mission trip together. That was very meaningful. Vacations, whether it's just a day away or whether we get a chance to do a longer vacation. I think all those memories that you can build and building on positive times together are just so important.
Because you have a great relationship now with your stepson.
I do.
Right?
I'm very grateful for my relationship with him, and I give a lot of credit for how our family has bonded and how well we've done. His mom has been extremely gracious about encouraging him to have a great relationship with me, and I know that's not always the case for everyone who's a stepmom. Sometimes there's a lot of resistance there. Our extended families have really welcomed the kids in as full family members. So they're they've gained, their families on both sides have really grown, at a large extent with extra grandparents and extra aunts and uncles and extra people who love them. So
that's right.
That's been a huge blessing.
Well, the more
to us.
people that can love your children, it just seems like people used to ask me that all the time. Are you jealous of the other grandmother? I'm like, how could I be jealous of somebody who loves my grandchildren as much or maybe even more than I do? So I want a lot of people in my life to love my children, to love my grandchildren. And I think that's just a really healthy thing for our kids. It's not always easy to do, to navigate, but it's very, very, very healthy. You mentioned, Barbie, that your faith has played a real important role in all of this, going to church together, praying together. Was there ever any kind of resistance with your 4 kids? And let's forget about stepmom and talk about just being a mom. Did your kids ever resist any of that?
We've always given our kids the freedom to sort of find the right fit for them, as far as if there's a youth group that they, were particularly drawn to. We trust that God leads them to the right place. And so our kids really haven't resisted, I think, because they felt free to, explore going into different groups or different ministries, and different doors have opened for them. And we've prayed for that for them, that they would find the right spot for them. And so I don't think they've rebelled against it, because I think they've always felt that they had, the opportunity to seek that out for themselves and to seek out what was the right fit for them.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about discipline, because I can imagine being a brand new mom to a 13-year-old boy. There must have been times where you would want to tell him that something was right or wrong, or don't pick on your sisters, or don't do this, or pick up your clothes. What did the discipline look like in your household as a stepmom? Did you have the authority to discipline your son?
I did, and I think that at times early on, I did sort of get into some of the more minor details. Did you do your homework? Are you supposed to be watching video games right now? And I think that actually created more tension and wasn't overall that helpful in the end, to do that, because there were times then when my husband would come home from work and I would say, oh, well, he didn't do this, or he didn't. And meanwhile, our daughters were doing the same thing. They were just watching TV instead of video games, but it was really the same thing. And so I, looking back on it, I think that, especially for a child who has, strong parents, Ross has a strong dad and a strong mom and lots of adult supervision. I just didn't really need to be in that disciplinary role. So I think looking back on it, it would have been okay for me to be
to look
a little
the other
more
way.
Relaxed and just a little more laid back.
And maybe let him Steve be the disciplinarian?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a lot of wisdom.
We were fortunate because, he's just a good kid, so we really didn't have issues.
But there'll be people watching
yeah.
today wondering about that and saying, no, I am the stepmom. I am going to exact some punishment, and I should be having that authority. Your advice would be to take it easy?
For me, I feel like the best role as a step parent is to be, an additional loving, caring adult, role model, mentor. I think there are things where you might need to intervene if there was, an extreme situation.
That you're not one yet, but that's kind of the role of a grandmother.
I know. That's great. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I don't do a lot of disciplining. I will tell my kids once in a while if they've done something wrong, but for the most part, my role is to mentor, to love unconditionally, and to have fun. I just want to have fun with my grandkids, and so maybe it's a similar kind of thing with a stepchild.
I think it's probably more similar to that than it is to the parent role, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's a healthy role to be
What
in.
about problems with rivalry with Ross with his 3 sisters? I can't imagine that there wouldn't be some bickering throughout the years. And how did you deal with some of that?
There's a little bit of arguing. I think you have to separate out how much of that is just because there's 4 children in the household versus a stepchild versus another child. So I think most of it just has to do with just when you're in close proximity to people, especially if you're in a car ride, they're going to argue. Somebody's going to be in someone else's physical space.
Somebody's going to be touching somebody.
And, I think that with our particular dynamic of having 3 girls and 1 boy, there were times that the girls, because they're very vocal and opinionated, might outvote him on something. We are watching this chick flick.
Yeah.
We are doing something. And one example I can think of that is we were getting ready to adopt a dog, and the girls were just set that it was going to be a female dog, and everything was going to be pink, and he just didn't have anything to say about it.
Right.
And we just said, no, Ross, you're not going to get to have an opinion about that. And it came time for the dog that was having the puppies to have the puppies. And Ross said, well, I don't really care what you name the dog, but it's going to be a boy. And sure enough, that dog had a litter of one puppy, and it was a boy.
Wow.
And so our dog, who's now named Levi, who's, just, again, I think that's a great thing that's helped bond our family together, too, was us getting a family dog that's really all of ours. And sort of my fifth child.
Exactly.
But, it was
Ross
just kind of...
he felt a little empowerment, even though,
it was just kind of funny because, it reminded me, or it sort of brought to my attention that there are times that over the years that I have let, the majority rule being, there are these three girls who all want something and overpower maybe what his suggestion was, which was a great suggestion.
Yeah. So how has Steve been as a stepdad in your eyes? I'm sure he's been great and all of that, but were there ever times where it was hard for you to see your husband parent your girls?
It is hard. I think it's difficult because I was divorced and single for a number of years with my daughters. And so when you move into that situation, you get to the point where you're putting the children first. I was putting the children first because I wasn't in a relationship. So then when I moved into a married relationship and inherently sort of knew, well, I'm supposed to put my spouse first and children second, but that order gets very mixed up. I think in a second marriage, it's easy to start to put the children first, or to think that the other parent doesn't have the perspective of the history. They're only looking at what's happening right there in front of them. They're not looking at the history or feeling like maybe they've misunderstood the situation. Steve has always been great of just having that sort of adult role model, mentor type position more than disciplinarian. And we have sort of split up things in terms of discipline, with me being more responsible for the girls and him being more responsible for Ross.
That's
in those
interesting.
regards.
I hadn't thought about that before, but I imagine that would be the wise thing to do.
It's worked for us. I don't know if it works that way for everyone. I think it depends on the age of the children and the relationships. And,
I'm sure
and how
every situation's
other
different.
Parents are.
What would your girls say about Steve as a stepdad?
Oh gosh, I would think they would just say they're grateful to have him in their life. They have a great relationship with their dad as well, and being able to have two men who love and care about him, as you said, you know, having two people and getting to see, they've gotten to see an example of our marriage, I hope, is a good example of people who love each other, who put each other first. And so I hope that.
Okay, I'm going to really embarrass you now, Barbie, because I'm going to say, and I know you can't possibly know the exact answer to this, but if Ross were sitting on the couch right there next to you right now, what would he say about his stepmom?
Well, it's interesting because I had a conversation with him on the way over here. And he said that he felt that I've been, encouraging and supportive, and that he felt that I've been caring. I've tried to be, caring and loving to him, and to treat him the same as I would. As I would my daughters. I've tried to do that.
Great.
One of the highlights for him that is more recent that he mentioned was for his college graduation. We went out to dinner, and it was my family, an extended family, his dad's family, an extended family, his mom's family, an extended family, his stepdad, his sister, all of us at this really long table. And, to me, that's, looks like the kingdom of God. We've tried to create a longer table and be more inclusive. And for him to be able to have his whole huge family, or most of his family, together was just, really special to him. And I think that having more of those kind of opportunities, I think he's appreciated that when I've tried to do that.
Barbie, there will be some people watching today who don't have. Yours is almost idyllic. It is such a good situation, so it probably wasn't totally fair that I invited somebody who is functional rather than dysfunctional. But you can imagine that there will be people that say, but I don't have a good relationship with my stepson, or I don't like for my husband to do what he's doing with my children. And whatever it is, what kind of advice would you give that person today who might be struggling in a step-parent role?
I think, first of all, I would say to any moms out there that they really set the tone. They really do. And the women that I know who would be fabulous stepmoms, but who are sort of denied that, a lot of times it's because the mom has really been bitter and has really blocked that and has really poisoned the kids against them. And I just think that's a terrible shame. So I just would say to the moms out there, you know, if that's their situation and they're having to welcome another person in, just consider, you know, trying to see that potential stepmom or dad's girlfriend or whatever it is as they have gifts and talents and interests, and you know, most people are good people and really just want to love your child. To the stepmoms themselves, you know, if they're struggling, I think you know, you have to have faith, and you can always still pray for your stepchildren. That's something anybody can do. Whether or not your relationship is great, you know, unfortunately, I think sometimes God does have us wait a really long time to see the fruits of that. And I've seen that certainly in other friends' relationships where, you know, they're on their knees praying for that relationship and it takes years and years and years. And there's no good answer to that other than just be strong and trust in the Lord, that in the Lord's timing, that hopefully those relationships will come around. And if you're consistent and you're consistently loving and caring and kind, that relationship may come around.
Because you're 11 years down the road too, right?
Exactly, yes.
And so possibly to expect it to happen right away or within the first year or two, it's not a realistic expectation.
It's not. You know, Barbara, one of the books I read before I got married having to do with step families said that the statistics are that 75% of second marriages where there are children involved end in divorce.
Wow.
And most of those within the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I knew that going into it. And I think that was really helpful for me to know because, first of all, I knew that it would take a strong faith community. I knew I needed lots of support. We sought out counseling support, pastors, friends, accountability groups, all sorts of support that I knew I would really need to kind of, you know, build my team around me to, you know, family and friends to really support us. And also, you know, the 2 years, you know, reminded me, especially during those first 2 years when it was difficult, you know, just stay with it. You know, don't judge how it's going to be based on what the first 6 months is or the first year is. You know, as I said, it's a lot of change to expect of children. And especially if, like me, I didn't grow up in a divorced household. My parents have been married over 50 years. And so having empathy for the children and what they're going through, especially if it was very different from your own experience as a child, I think it's really important to empathize with the children and give them time. And children are resilient, so they do come around. But it, you know, it's not immediate. You know, it's not going to happen in a week.
Lots of work and lots of wisdom coming out of your mouth. Barbie Boyd, thank you so much for being such an extraordinary stepmother and mother and friend through the years. And I wish you a happy, happy Mother's Day. Any plans for Mother's Day?
Oh gosh, just to get together with the kids.
Yeah,
you know, I love
the
spending time
big
with
long
them.
table, right? Longer table, the better.
As big as we can build it.
That's right. Well, happy Mother's Day to you and to all of our viewers out there today. We've got more coming up, so you don't want to go away. Stay with us.
There's a lot of families where a lot of people live under the same roof, but that mom is a single mom, even though the dad is living there. And you know, not all families work in unity, and some husbands travel or what have you. And so I think the label of being a single parent has a bad stereotype in our society because people, it's just, they think of it as a negative thing.
We're talking today about the joys of motherhood, but sometimes motherhood can have its challenges as well. But we have a mom who's going to be representing all of you single moms out there, those of you who know what it's like to have maybe a house full of children and you're all by yourself. Well, this particular friend of ours here at Good Life 45 is a single mom of one little precious girl, and she's going to be telling us her story. Jennifer Isaacson, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it.
Well, you came from Colorado because you left Florida. What was the reason that you left?
This time last year, we moved to Colorado so I could pursue my Bible college at Charis Bible College. And so we've had a year to transition now, and we're loving the beauty and the mountains and the outdoors and
you're an
the
equestrian,
snow.
so you love to ride horses, so that's been good for you, right?
We've had some trail rides that it's the most beautiful time ever on a horse. You know, it's okay in Florida to trail ride, but it's kind of flat.
Yeah, just a little different.
And so the scenery is beautiful, the wildlife is beautiful.
Was it an easy move to make with your daughter? I guess Caitlin was 10 at the time when you moved out?
Yes, she just turned 10. Actually, we celebrated her birthday, and then we left right after that in March of last year. It was ideal, really. And
she didn't mind leaving?
Well, it's odd because it was not really a planned move. I was taking online classes with Charis Bible College, and I decided to go out to the college and see it for myself. And there was a business conference there, and I just loved everything about it. I loved the people, the campus, the beauty of the area. And so that was in the summer of last year, and then 6 months later we moved there. And so it was kind of just something that God laid on my heart, and I just couldn't say no. And everyone that was kind of looking at me was thinking, this doesn't make any sense.
Because you had a law practice as well,
I
right?
did.
So you have to move your practice out to Colorado.
I had a law practice, and then I was homeschooling Caitlin that year, and we decided to try something new. And so, I just walked away from the law practice.
Oh, so you didn't take the practice out there with you?
No, well, I'm not licensed in Colorado.
Okay.
So I do still do law work
From Florida.
It's Florida cases.
Okay. Yeah.
And so having Caitlin homeschooling was ideal because she didn't need to immediately transition to school.
Right.
And she did attend they had a homeschool day at the public school there, which was great. So one day a week she would go to regular school.
Oh, good.
And so she knew some familiar faces by the time she started school. And now she has a handful of great girlfriends, and
she's made the adjustment.
She has. They have their sleepovers and their little,
So when did Caitlin become, or when did you become a single mom? How old was Caitlin?
Caitlin was 3.
Okay.
Yeah, she was quite young, and and for me, I wasn't really familiar with children. And so I wasn't one of these girls who says, I can't wait to have a child, and, because we had a small family, we didn't really have neighbors. We grew up on a farm, and we had animals.
Yeah, right.
There weren't many kids around, and I didn't really know anything about babies. And when Caitlin came, I was terrified. What do I do with her?
Yeah.
So, but luckily my mom and dad moved to Florida from New Jersey. They helped me to stop being in such a panic. It's going to be okay. So it's been an amazing...
After your divorce, your parents came to try to help you, or even...
They came before that.
Before that,
yes,
okay.
Yes,
All right, so you are a young mom with a 3-year-old little girl, and you are all of a sudden by yourself. You talk about being terrified. Was that not a really scary thing?
It was a scary thing, yeah. And, it was a time where, not everyone stood behind me or beside me. And so I really was quite alone at that time. And it was terrible because that was the lowest point of my life. because it wasn't something, ethically and morally that I wanted to do. But I felt like I was in a situation that it would be the best thing for the future.
You were a Christian at the time that you got your divorce?
But I was more of a seeking Christian.
Okay.
I was saved in my teens. But it was really because I was taking a trip to Europe, and my friend's mom didn't want me to go and meet my demise without being saved, and so I did it, but I didn't really know anything about it. And really, it wasn't until I got divorced that I met Jesus for the first time.
Maybe because you were at rock bottom?
Maybe.
And
It's strange because I oftentimes look back on it and I say, I'm glad that happened because I was a totally different person. And just more critical and judgmental of others and myself. I was very much a perfectionist, and I would beat myself up, and and I finally learned, like, I was relying on myself throughout my entire journey in my life. And it wasn't working. And I thought, well, I'm a lawyer, I have all these degrees, I should be able to just do anything and have and do and be. And it just kept on pushing me back and back and back. And so finally I got back all the way to the ground and started to follow Joyce Meyer and inquire more, and just started to try to implement some of those teachings into my life.
Were you involved in a church, Jennifer?
I was not. Okay. I would volunteer for like the conferences for Joyce Meyer and stuff like that, but I wasn't active in any church.
Because the reason I'm asking is because it seems like a lot of times the church, meaning us, we fail single moms because we either don't recognize the difficulty of their plight, or we discount them, as divorced women or divorced men in our culture.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't embrace them like we should as a church. Did you ever feel that from other Christians that, oh, I'm divorced, I've got this big D on me because I've failed?
Not
good.
Well, not per se. And I think maybe it's because I have been a woman surviving as a lawyer in a world of men. Yeah. And so a lot of people feel like they don't belong because they're not like everybody else. And I guess I've never really been like anybody else.
Right. Well, that probably helped.
And it did help to make me stronger because it doesn't cross my mind what I should be. Yeah. Because if it did, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be pursuing Bible college. Right. And believe me, not everybody ran to my party when I was departing saying, this is a great idea. Right. And so, but through all of these struggles, you learn to be stronger and to realize, and to step back and say, well, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this, for the right reason at the right time? And why have I been led to where I am? And so when the struggles come, whether it's surrounding your child or your workplace or moving or blending to a new community or what have you, it's all the same struggle. You still just have to keep your eyes on following Jesus and doing the right thing. And if you're called to accomplish a mission, then if it's raising, it was raising Caitlin when she was 3, I just had to focus on that.
Yeah, that's good. And being the daughter of a single mom is really all she's ever known. At 3 years old, she probably doesn't remember a lot about being in a household with a mom and a dad. Does she ever bemoan the fact that you're not married? Does she ever say, Mom, come on, I want a home, I want a family, I want to have a dad?
No.
Good for her.
And I see it more as like a lifestyle. And I look at other families too, and there's a lot of families where a lot of people live under the same roof, but that mom is a single mom, even though the dad is living there. And not all families work in unity, and some husbands travel or what have you. And so I think the label of being a single parent it has a bad stereotype in our society because people, it's just, they think of it as a negative thing. But, you know, and I have been blessed to have my own business, and while, you know, most people go to law school so they can earn tons of money, I used that capacity to live a lifestyle that embraced my daughter. And so I was not required to work 3 jobs to supply for us. And so while I never focused, you know, 80 hours a week trying to earn, you know, 6 figures, I would spend time with my daughter all the time. And we have so many adventures that we have done together and so many experiences, and I mean thousands and thousands of pictures to look back
That's
on
great.
of, and so you know, she trusts me fully. Yeah, she knows there's nothing that we can't do together, that we can't accomplish together.
That's great.
That no
The
place
security
that we
she
can't
feels.
go.
That's wonderful. And the confidence this child has.
It's
But not
great.
every single mom is going to have your same situation, obviously. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
working for you. Your struggle has not been financial. It's not been spending time with your child. You don't ever have to feel guilty about those 2 things because you're okay there. But certainly through the years, you've had some kind of struggles being a single mom, or at least some challenges. Could you identify 1 or 2 of those?
Well, I'm not the best disciplinarian.
Okay.
And so I'm a real pushover. And so I'll say.
I had an only child for 14 years. And so
wow.
I understand some of that, spending a lot of time. And one of my biggest struggles was to really try hard not to be my daughter's best friend. Because that would have been real easy to do. We had a very, very close relationship, similar to yours and Caitlin's. And so have you ever struggled with that? Just you and Caitlin are not maybe mom and daughter, maybe your best friends?
A little bit, yes. And well, I think the primary reason that we kind of got headed down that road is because Caitlin grew up on a farm. And so we didn't, like I grew up with no neighbors. Very few kids to play with, and so she didn't have play dates after school and things like that so much, especially when she was very young. And so she would catch frogs outside and lizards and things, and that's what occupied her time, and we would fish and do things like that. And so that started that bond because I was really the only playmate that she had.
You're available too.
And so, and I do now try to, you know, provide her many opportunities to have her friends after school, or I never deny her a play date or sleepover or anything else, because I want her to have those relationships. I want her to have little inside jokes with her friends, and you know, they just do silly things, and she needs all of that.
I see you also as being very content in your life the way that it is.
Well, it's, you know, we have had a number of trials and tribulations after going to Colorado. And I often questioned, is this just me wanting to live in this beautiful place? Or is this really God saying, I have a mission for you and you need to be educated at Bible college to fulfill it? And so I was kind of wrestling with that, and I got clarity on that. God spoke to me in a dream, and it was a situation where someone was injured, and I was powerless in that moment. And I woke up, and everything was so clear to me because I see the students that are graduates of the Bible college, and I see the amazing work they're doing, and I see the boldness that they're willing to speak with, and they're willing to stand for, and they're willing to stretch out their hand and heal somebody and pray over somebody. And I, in my heart, felt that I don't want to leave Colorado the same person. And if I'm in a situation where I'm called to pray over somebody or heal somebody or someone's dying, I don't want to run away in fear. I want to stretch my hand and pray over them. And I knew that I'm in the right place for the right reason. And so regardless of all of the trials and tribulations and the struggles and the, battling to get homework done, I know that I have a purpose in what I'm doing, and it's for good. So, yeah.
You're an extraordinary woman, Jennifer,
thank
and I
you.
just applaud you for the way that you're loving your daughter and the way you're embracing life as a single mom, but more importantly, as a daughter of the King. And I see that in you so beautifully. Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you, to you too.
Thank you so much, and thanks again for coming and being part of our program today.
Thank you, Barbara.
God bless you.
You too.
We've got more viewers coming up, so you want to stay with us. I hope you enjoyed our program today. Just the other day on the radio, I was listening to Dr. David Jeremiah as he talked about the role of moms in our families and culture. He was comparing a mother's love, that which is one of great sacrifice, to the unconditional love that Christ has for each one of us. Now, I know you're thinking, well, not all moms are great and sacrificing, and that's true. We are imperfect people living in an imperfect world, but when we think of a mother's role in the family, it's almost always one of serving others with little, if not any, payback other than her child's love. And actually, that's all we really want in return. Oftentimes, being a mom can be the greatest role we can have. But what mother hasn't felt tremendous and deep grief, either for her hurting child or perhaps as a result of a child hurting her? The Bible tells us that a foolish son is the grief of his mother, while a wise son is a blessing. Oh, that we could guarantee that our children will choose wisdom over foolishness. But what if they don't? We can't make our children into puppets of obedience, just like God has given each of us the freedom to choose right from wrong and what path we'll follow. So what is our role as a mother? Well, there are too many to list, but perhaps most importantly, we are called to love. Sometimes that might be tough love, but it's always going to be unconditional love. We're also called to teach our children to obey, not only us as parents, but to obey their Heavenly Father. That means, as Deuteronomy says, teach them diligently as we sit in our houses, when we walk by the way, when we lie down, and when we rise up. Well, that sounds to me like all the time. We can't depend on the church to bear the full responsibility for teaching our children. We certainly can't rely on the school system, whether it's Christian or secular. No, the Bible says we need to be constantly teaching and loving our children. But oh, what a great joy and privilege that is, and a gift from God. Being a mom has always been my greatest joy, and at the same time, my biggest challenge. Well, I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day. You are dearly loved, and that's our note of hope for today. Thanks so much for watching. Welcome home, and God bless you.